That's okay. No, no,
Yeah,
no,
we
no,
got
no,
it
no.
wrong. Yeah.
No, it's okay. Look, if we lose someone.
No, because the chances of cashing it are so low. Like we've expended as many resources as we can on this fight.
Oh, but non-binary representation.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Input Left's Pokemon Diamond Randomizer Nuzlocke. Last episode, we fought our rival Joe. We replaced Jamal Bowman with Mitch McConnell, which sounds terrible, but I promise we had a good reason to do it. And in this, and then we also sadly failed to capture our encounter for this route, which was a Metagross. But luckily, it didn't claim any of our team members' lives. So now, we're continuing along this route. We should have a few more encounters to get in the near future.
Which, to note, I mean, we could have lost a couple of team members potentially in that run. In hindsight, we could have just defeated the Metagross, right? We could have just attacked it and finished it off if we were going to run anyway.
I don't know if Grottle could have killed it, but it's true that Monferno could have actually very trivially. That's a good
right.
point.
That probably would have been a better decision.
It probably would have been safer. Yeah.
Oh, I guess that dude is just a jogger. He doesn't want to deal with you.
Yeah, I suppose so.
So, Will, I sent you today a little video.
You're setting me up
yes.
for something. Okay.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I'm setting up this conversation. I'm setting you up. This is a stick up. But I sent you Static Shock.
Yeah, I think you referenced that show earlier in this playthrough, didn't you?
I think I did. I certainly had it on my list of things to talk about. I think we talked a little bit, maybe, or referenced it. But I want to dive a little deeper into it and plug it for anyone watching. But did you watch the video or did you just see the image?
I watched the video. I watched that video. What are you thinking for?
I'm so into it. I watched all of if there's 4 seasons. Actually, there's 5 that were condensed to 4 on HBO. But they took out 2 episodes because of copyright music. But I watched all of it. And then I found out that he makes an appearance in Justice League Ultimate or whatever. So I think that's what it's called. So I watched that episode. And then I also saw that he's in Young Justice, I guess, which I'd seen a little bit of, I think, as a kid. But I decided not to watch that because it's a different version of him. I have my canon. But
right.
Static Shock, absolutely fantastic. Mitch is always cursing.
True.
The American people. Static Shock, though.
He's a curse upon the American people, yeah.
Exactly. Static Shock, though, what a fantastic show. What a fantastic character. I'm pitching this because has become... I never had, I would say I always found it difficult to answer the question, who's your favorite superhero, comic book superhero.
Sure.
And, when I was a kid, it was Captain America because I had a Captain America coloring book and I really liked the Shield. And, I certainly wouldn't say that now Captain America is my favorite hero, but I really like the idea of you're using a shield as the weapon, and something about that drew me. Then later, I would probably say Spider-Man, and probably until recently, I would say Spider-Man. Good hero. I like that these guys they're not overpowered. They work within their world, lends itself to interesting conflicts, right? I love that Spider-Man is even in every iteration, it's a city kid. Obviously, now it's Miles Morales, which is really amazing. But Static Shock, boy oh boy, this is my new favorite superhero. DC, quasi DC character. He's actually, well, I'll tell the story, but what do you know, Will, about Static Shock?
Well, first I wanted to say what my favorite superhero was.
Oh, please.
If you don't mind. I think growing up, it was always Spider-Man and Batman. It was always between the two of them, but if I had to pick, would have gone with Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think what you brought up about Captain America, I think there's still a lot of good with respect to Captain America. Like I don't think even as a leftist, I think it's fine to like Captain America.
Yeah,
because Captain America's
you'll be canceled if you like Captain America.
Captain America's best stories are the ones where he is pitted directly against America, which happens a lot. Captain America's never been like a tool of the, well, okay, I should say this. Generally speaking, Captain America, you know, whether it's Steve Rogers, whether it's Sam Wilson, he is meant to be, or they, I should say, are meant to be not like
how progressive
somebody who supports America in every single. Well, I say they because
no, I'm just
like,
kidding.
There's like female Captain Americas and stuff. There hasn't been a non-binary Captain America. Yeah,
I didn't even know.
Anyways, the point here is that like Captain America is not meant to be like somebody who just upholds America and is like super patriotic to the point where like they turn a blind eye to most of America's flaws. Rather, Captain America is at their best when they are actively demonstrating the flaws America has and working against them. So I think it's still fine to like Captain America. And yeah, the idea of a character using a shield as their primary weapon, you know, always to defend, never to attack. It's almost like a Jedi sort of thing, and I like that. So.
Yeah, and I would say a lot draws me to Batman, except that he's a billionaire, and
that is a slightly harder thing to reconcile in some ways. Yeah.
And not just the fact that he's rich, more like what is this guy's everyday struggle? He's powerful because he has money for equipment, and he was trained by, you know. He's like canonically trained by the best martial artists, and like so he's just basically his power is white privilege. I say that somewhat jokingly. I know he has like a tragic backstory and everything, but
I think it's a little harder in some ways to relate to Batman because it's hard not to think of him in on occasion as like a rich white man acting out his fantasies, right? Like, he's obviously, yes, he has experienced hardship and personal trauma. He does have a strict code of honor. He seems to be fundamentally a decent person, despite what he says and the edgiest interpretations of him.
Right.
But yeah, like, I agree that when you really step back and look at him bigger picture, it can be harder to, I think, to find the relatable elements of his character.
No, Robin. No, that's a good one.
Yeah, it depends on which Robin you're talking about, perhaps. But I really like Dick Grayson.
Spandex Boy Wonder. Yeah.
Well, I meant like which Robin.
I'm just kidding. Yeah. Yeah, like Teen Titans Robin. That's Dick Grayson, right?
I believe so. Yes.
And then some of the edgier versions of him as well.
Yeah. Well, typically Dick Grayson ends up leaving Robin behind. He becomes a Nightwing. And he actually like has a lot of trauma from his time as Robin. He has a very tense relationship with Batman. He doesn't really like Batman in a lot of ways, and I think that's a really interesting like deconstruction in many ways of Batman. It makes Batman a more interesting character. It makes him a more interesting character. He's also got a really interesting backstory because he comes from like the circus. His family is Romani, etc. Like, there's some interesting.
I think it's some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
Nightwing is a very cool character, I think. But this was just and to cap off that before I go back to Static.
Right.
I love Batman, except for like who he is as a person doesn't match to me. Like his style as a superhero is like anybody could do this kind of. But
all the gadgets also not just anybody in a sense,
right? And also all the gadgets he has is because he can afford them. So
right.
But Static Shock, a little bit of a different thing than all that because he's a dude with a lot of power. He has basically electric powers, as you might assume by the
really?
The name. Yeah, if you could believe that.
Wouldn't have guessed, yeah.
But just to give you a little bit of the story and to sum it up, well, that would be to really oversimplify it. I think he's the first like black DC Marvel superhero to have a TV
DC
show. Well,
to
DC.
have a TV show. I was gonna say like
No, and he's not
No
even the
way.
first Black DC character.
yeah. I mean certainly.
But obviously his show was not the first incarnation of him either. There were comics.
Yeah. I was just wondering where you're going with that. But yeah, first one to get a show, that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I think so. And which is really cool. But the origin is also very cool because basically what had happened was a group of professionals in the comic book industry realized, well, I don't know if they realized it, they just knew their entire lives that the comic book representation of people of color was really lacking. And so they started their own company of comic books, and I forgot what it's called, but basically they had their own company of comic books with basically, I think, just black superheroes, and or it might just be just black, or it might just be like superheroes of color, but to basically combat the wow, very exciting. To combat the representation issue in comic books. And so Static Shock is one of their characters. And I think at first he had a one shot, then everyone really liked him, so they kept going with him. But then DC eventually just bought that company out, and then all those black heroes joined their canon.
Do you know what year this was in? Like what time period? Because it was very common for that to happen. Like independent comic companies would start up, they'd create a bunch of characters, they'd start to get popular, and then DC or Marvel would buy them.
Mm-hmm. So I think I think this is like the 80s maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe even the 70s or 80s. But yeah, exactly. They started it, and when you're thinking about their goal is to shift the industry, so that's in some ways that's the best result they could have, is like if those characters are actually used, right? In a meaningful way.
Because sometimes they aren't used, but like
you just
they're sort of they're bought out either to snuff out the competition, or in some cases because you wanted to create a character with like the same name.
Right. True. Yeah.
That happens a lot.
So there's always arguments about whether you having a separate space is great or you want to influence the bigger industry, but in either case, he got bought out, and then basically from 2000 to like 2004, 2005, they had the show running, Static Shock, which had 4 or 5 seasons. So he's a black high schooler from I forgot what the city is, but obviously they have this canon has its own. This comic book series had its own city where I think everything was taking place. And basically in this city, all these high school age kids, they're all like there was a bunch of gang members that got into basically a gang war in near the docks. And sorry, this excited couple is distracting me.
Please just continue.
Oh wow, they're dancing in battle.
Yeah, I've had a lot of relationships just like that.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I'm just certain all of your relationships were so connected to your Pokemon battling.
No. I wish I could say yes, but no.
Yeah, your dream gamer partner.
Never came to fruition. Yeah.
No, not yet. Well.
Not yet.
Where was I going though? Oh yeah,
you're talking about Static Shock. And
So his origin story is like, and it's pretty cool because the way they like touch on race themes, race relations, city like gang violence in cities, and all this stuff is like very well done, I would say. And basically, there's this gang war happening, and he gets dragged into it, and his mom was killed by gun violence, so he doesn't want to be a part of it, so he like tosses the gun, at least in the show version of it, and he's like trying to get away from of this, like this violence is breaking out, and the police, as they do, start gassing him.
No,
the police start gassing everybody.
That's how he gets his powers.
Oh yeah, so this is so cool. And I mean, there's some of this like respect, like, okay, they fall into all this, the superhero, like law enforcement is on the good side for the most part, but I do really love that the origin story is the police start gassing everybody, like 90 something percent of the people who are gassed just die in the comic book version. In the in the TV version, they don't tell you that. But a bunch of them die, and the ones who are remaining, it turns out that gas, which everyone thought was tear gas, was actually infused with some kind of like test chemical that was like very experimental and very dangerous. And so the people who survived, they called this incident the Big Bang, and the people who survive are the Bang Babies, and they're all the people who basically develop powers as a result of the tear gas from the cops, which is so cool.
I think it's really interesting how they managed to effortlessly integrate two core aspects of I think how Black Americans have been historically treated in this country, which is one, excessive force and violence at the hands of the police, and two, unethical, inhumane testing of experimental drugs upon Black people.
Oh man, I didn't even go to that deeper level. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
No, and so the police tear gas all these people, these gang members that are getting into a fight. Most of them die, so you didn't actually like solve the problem, or you just killed the people. And the remaining people got basically superpowers, and it's interesting because Static, who becomes kind of the big hero, right, in this story, he's there, but he's there because he got dragged into it and he felt pressured, but he does not want no part of it, and he tossed the gun away. Like, he's not interested in violence, and he's a good kid, and he's but he gets his powers. Basically things start sticking to him, and he figures out he has electric powers. It's pretty much what you would expect, like shoot bolts of lightning. And his main thing, though, that like is kind of particular to him, is he'll use like electricity to fly around in a hover disc. And so there's a name for it, like whatever, but that's his big thing.
Static disc.
Probably something like that. Where the idea, I think, is just that he's using magnetic push from the ground to fly around with it.
Just like that Metagross did in the last episode. Am I right, everyone?
Oh, Magnet Rise.
Yeah, Magnet Rise, everyone.
Yeah, we could have named it after Static Shock. And I might be used to the show because, most of the time the cops are just portrayed as on the good side and the gang members are on the bad side. There's definitely subtlety. But there are some touching on these bigger themes, and his best friend is white, and his name's Richie. And Richie, I found out, is gay too, which is, this show did a lot like for early 2000s. And there's some like allusions to it even in the show, but nothing like overt, because at the time, a kid show couldn't get away with that.
Yeah, and there's so many. Sorry, I just want to interject here. There's so many like kids shows from that time period where like the showrunners, the writers have come out like more recently in recent years and been like, all of that like beer coding that you might have seen like was very much intentional. We wanted these characters to be gay, but like this was the most we could get away with at the time.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's exactly what happened with this, because So his best friend Richie, the white kid, they hang around all the time, and it's kind of the opposite. What happens with him is there are lines where Richie will sound like he's trying really hard to sound straight, and so he'll be like, "Oh, of course I want to go. Like, there's girls in swimsuits. Of course I want to go to that event."
Oh yeah.
And he'll say it like kind of loudly and kind of awkwardly, as if he's trying to signal to everyone that he's definitely straight, and people give him like weird looks, and you're kind of like, "Oh, that's a little weird." Like, but it all makes sense once you find out. That was the show writers trying to say, "Hey, look at the way like he's trying to project. We can't tell you this, but he's gay." So and then all the cast, and like the really cool thing is both the heroes and the villains are all like, they're Black, they're Latino, they're Asian, and then like white people are just also people in the show, and it's not like the dominant though. It's a city that is very diverse, and it's nothing on the nose. It's not like all the villains are white or anything, though the white billionaire is a notable opponent. But and there's an episode in season 1 where it's like the big racism episode where it turns out Richie never wanted Sadek to visit his house. Sadek's real name is Virgil Hawkins, by the way. And he never wanted Virgil to visit his house. And then he visits, and the dad is like
super racist.
He's super racist. And at first, they hit on like all the lines that is like, it's not just like, I don't like black people. It's like, I don't like that type of music, you know, being played in my house.
Yeah, pull up your pants, you know, that sort of thing.
Exactly. It's that kind of more indirect stuff. And it's really cool because Virgil directly addresses that in his response. And Richie's like, oh, I'm sorry, my dad. And Virgil goes, oh, that's not him being racist. Look, I get it. Look, he says, even my dad doesn't like that kind of music or doesn't like this aspect of us. And it's just an age thing. But then he goes and he walks out and he overhears the dad saying like, why is this kid in my house? Like, I don't remember. He says something like
why is my son hanging out with a bad influence like that? That's
exactly. Something like that. And then he gets, oh shit. And he gets like traumatized over it. He leaves and goes home. His dad has to console him. And eventually what happens is Richie gets kidnapped and Virgil's dad and Richie's dad have to partner up. And it's very cool because Richie's dad is like, still like, oh, you know, I would never like partner with the likes of you or your people. And then the other guy's just like, look, man, I just want to get our kids back. Like, you're with me or you're not. And he kind of like, through being begrudgingly working alongside him for the episode, they kind of come to a common understanding of like, they both love their kids and they want their kids to be safe. And that does something to move the needle. I think it's so well done, so cool, especially for like the year this came out was like 2000. Yeah,
it sounds really cool.
But Static Shock Best Hero, from what I've heard, is actually that like within the next year we will have a Static Shock movie, like, you know, live action. So that would be exciting.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I think it's really cool, especially to see like cartoons aimed at younger people that are able to, you know, represent a wider array of people and also tackle more challenging topics.
Oh yeah.
Like that. So, and handle it in an effective way, like you say it has. So that's cool.
At least in my opinion. And if you disagree with that, please state it in the comments to help boost the algorithm for this video. But no, Will, your homework is actually if you're anti-racist homework is to go and watch this.
Exactly.
So we can talk about it.
You don't go and watch this show.
Right, you're canceled.
You are a part of the problem.
Exactly. So you gotta watch this. I highly would recommend it though for anyone who likes superheroes.
I actually probably will not watch it. I'm gonna come out right now and say that. And the main reason for that is that, you know, just I don't think it's the kind of show that I would like at this point in my life. I think it's not got enough appeal for me. But it sounds really cool. I just don't think it's
as well as I sold it. Oh, the other thing I've got to get back into, I want to rewatch, is Jake Long American Dragon, which I don't know if you remember that. These are some good kids shows that I don't know. They have a lot of charm.
I'm not saying anything against them. I'm just saying,
racist. No.
Look, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you enjoying these shows, these great kids shows. I just don't know if they're good enough for me. Like, I almost dropped when I was watching Avatar: The Last Airbender about a year ago. I almost dropped it in the first season because I was like, yeah, it's a good kids show, but it's still a kids show. And it wasn't until the second season where I was really able to get past that and be like, no, this does have more appeal for me than I thought it did, you know?
Do we get an encounter in this building?
Yeah, we do. We should.
Okay. Is this our encounter?
No, this is a trainer fight. I am just trying to beat this dumb Vespiquen.
So in the comments, what's a show that is underrated that you think should get more attention?
Yeah, please share. Give us some recommendations. And other people in the comments some recommendations.
Maybe you'll encourage some people to stay home a little bit more before we reach the end of this.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a kids show, but you know, whatever
No,
you're
please.
into right now, let us know.
Please keep it though, you know, under 21. You know what I mean?
What?
Just in
What does
terms
that
of.
mean?
Well, it doesn't have to be a kid's show, but let's not get too crazy either.
But in what sense? Like, what if somebody comes up and is like, "Oh, I really liked Lovecraft County," you're gonna be like, that's not no.
What is that?
That's a new show that came out on HBO. Oh, forgot about the item. Here's our encounter. It's a new show that came out on HBO. I think like last fall, and it's basically about. It's mostly about a family, but there's some like, you know, non-family members. It's sort of about like a community of Black people in Chicago in like I think the 1950s, and it's about Lovecraftian cosmic horror as well.
This sounds
it's
right
really,
up your alley.
It's really interesting. Yeah. No, I really enjoyed it. It's a very interesting intersection of that, and like because Lovecraft obviously is famously like, at least for most of his life, was a very racist person. By the way, Gastrodon's a pretty good Pokemon.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so this show sort of like implicitly deals with that legacy. Like Lovecraft is a real person who wrote real books in the universe of the show.
Sorry, were you saying Lovecraft was racist?
Yeah.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Okay. I think later in his life, he sort of repented. He said like, you know, the things that he said and believed in the past were like sort of juvenile and bad, obviously. But like, yeah, some of the things, like he would write stuff when he was younger. There's like a lot of records of him just saying like some very, very like nasty stuff, basically. If that was 40 damage, I could definitely deal 25 damage. But yeah, so the show sort of implicitly deals with that in the sense that like there, like, yes, I said Lovecraft is like a real person who existed and wrote books in the show. Right. But like the books are based on reality, basically, is the idea. And like they go and uncover some of these like sort of hidden truths about the world and about the United States. And there's a lot of like interesting historical events and moments that are captured in it. I would say,
is it kind of like the Goosebumps movies, shows?
Kind of like it's more serialized than that. Like it is sort of anthological, but it's more serialized still, I guess. I would say one word of warning is that it is genuinely pretty scary. Okay. So if you're somebody who gets scared easily, maybe don't watch it. But otherwise, I would recommend it. It was pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I know you're a big Lovecraft person. I don't know, I don't watch a lot of horror, but I feel like that's something I have to watch with a friend. So maybe post-pandemic, I'll watch it with you. I'll piss my pads. The thing is, like, I'll just turn off the lights and it'll be dark, and then I'll start seeing things, you know, and
that 100% happened to me after. There's one particular episode that like just shook me for like weeks, where I like kept seeing things like in the dark corners of the house. Yeah,
that's scary.
Just like very creepy imagery and everything. Yeah.
Well, you can rest assured that your house is relatively new, from my understanding, so it's not like there's some, you know, 40, 50-year-old plus ghost living in your home. Yeah.
I mean, that's not exactly what it was that I was like. I don't want to actually say what it was because I think it kind of spoils a really good episode. But, it's really good. I don't think it's perfect necessarily, but like, I think it's a pretty good show. I think it's worth a watch. I'd love to hear if anybody's watched it, what your thoughts are on it, on like various parts of it. Hopefully we catch this Gastron soon.
I thought of a really great name that I want to share, but I'm gonna wait to see if we actually catch it.
Okay.
But, you know, rest assured, it's a slimy woman in politics.
Okay.
Of
Yeah.
course, as this slug would represent.
A real appetite for corruption. This thing is much harder to
Exactly.
catch than I expected. Oh shit, it is Mud Bomb.
I hope people know when we insult characters or compare them to these animals. If well, I don't know. I mean, certainly with the Republicans, we're probably just being serious, but there's a level of like satire that is with some of these other folks, right? Like, I don't know. I don't want to be mean to like the person that I'm gonna call out here. Like, I probably strongly disagree with her and feel like there's a little bit of sliminess, but I don't want to say that like she's an enemy of the people, right? Oh shoot! Oh, this would have been perfect timing to give you the name. But
Yeah, I know it would have been. I mean, I think that like, yeah, so if we just quickly glance at our team, Kamala's honestly coming out of this, or sorry, Kamala's coming out of this pretty good. Right?
when you think
Like as a
about it,
Dragonite, that's pretty good. I have no qualms whatsoever about naming Seviper Julie.
Right.
RBG, she should be honored. Bernie,
Right.
that's great. Mitch, like honestly, this is pretty good for Mitch.
Like, oh yeah. I mean, his joke was just he's a turtle, and RBG
he looks
is
like
just,
a turtle. Yeah,
RBG
like-
is just she's dead, so she's a ghost. So,
Right.
so these aren't
Like-
particularly bad ones. Besides Chen,
I
who
know
deserves it.
I know there's like a lot of discourse about like, oh, you know, you don't want to like make fun of people's appearances regardless
Yeah.
of like you know, whether or not you ideologically disagree with them. And I think that there is definitely a line you don't want to cross. I think
Right.
when you start being like straight up like, let's say misogynist, for instance, against like your political opponents, you've crossed a line.
Mhm.
If you are indeed somebody who is trying to
Right.
like be anti-misogynistic, you know. Certainly if you're like being racist and in other forms of bigotry.
Right.
But if I say that Mitch McConnell looks like a turtle,
Plus,
I really don't have a problem with
even
that.
if we hold that, I kind of hold the view that you shouldn't make fun of people's looks, but it's Mitch McConnell. I mean, there's gotta be
Exactly.
a carve
Yeah.
out for like Hitler level bad.
there's gotta be some level of person like it's
Right.
where you can make fun of their appearance to some extent, right?
Like,
Like
can
if
I
they're,
make fun of
especially if they're
Hitler's
so
mustache?
powerful, right? Like come on,
Yeah,
cut me
yeah.
some slack.
Right. You're not hurting anyone here. You're certainly not hurting him.
Am I hurting people who look like Mitch
if he
McConnell but are
comes
actually
out
like really
saying-
kind-hearted? Well, that's the thing. There's nobody that looks like Mitch McConnell.
A
right?
turtle isn't strictly an insult either. That's the other thing.
That's
Like,
true.
like
That's
we have
true.
a friend, you know, his nickname is the Tank, and to be honest, it's partly for me, not just because it's his name. He's Frank the Tank, but also he looks a little turly, but like in an endearing way, you know.
Well, he looks like Franklin from the books. And
Exactly.
his name is Franklin.
And that's a lovable character. Mitch McConnell
Yeah.
is not that turtle, you know.
Exactly. No, not at all. Not at all.
But here's my name. This person I'm only saying slimy like a slug to the degree of weaponizing her, you know, power
you,
for
you really don't have to qualify it this much.
It's Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
All right, a bit of a deeper cut probably for the average viewer.
right.
Debbie
so-
Wasserman Schultz, of course, was the former head of the Democratic National Committee here in the United States.
the iteration of the committee that specifically tried to take down Bernie in 2016. So, you know, which all evidence shows was pretty overt and pretty coordinated at the end of the day. So Debbie, just on that, you know, I don't know if she's a great person other than that, but on that note, she deserves it.
Yeah, there are so many people like her at the time. Like she just happened to be
Right.
one of those powerful people that like hated Bernie, thought he was the worst person ever, but loved Hillary.
Right.
I get it. I get why people felt so strongly that they had like a real chance for a woman to take the White House. I'm never gonna fault somebody for that.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to look past it at some point and be like, okay, but is this the right candidate, right?
Right.
Is Hillary Clinton actually better than Bernie Sanders? Like if they were like basically the same, but one of them was a woman and you supported the woman for that reason, that's fine. But they
Right.
weren't. Bernie is way better. So okay,
Right.
I don't want to litigate that too
Well,
much.
either
but,
way, this is a great place to cut the episode.
Mhm,
We've added
mhm.
Debbie to our extended team, our box. And see you next time. Yeah, engage. Share this video with some friends. We're trying to build a channel here. We're trying to build a channel over here.
Hey, we're building a community over here.
Yeah. Tune in next time. Bye.
All right. Bye.